All right, and thank you so much for joining me today. This is a really awesome treat that I have for everybody, which is my friend Zinaid, who is the face behind the awesome costume that you are looking at right now of Kaalia. So welcome, and why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and your costume for us.
Hello everyone, I am zbexx, you can call me Zinaid. I am a Magic the Gathering cosplayer, and Kaalia of the Vast is a very special cosplay to me. I actually designed the costume around Kaalia Zenith Seeker in honor of the card that was released in the core set, but Kaalia of the Vast was the very first Magic deck that was ever handed to me.
Oh wow, that's awesome! I actually didn't know that. Boy, that's I'm trying to think now what my first one was, because I guess maybe that's the first character that I would cosplay as. Maybe the guy from Pestilence, maybe. So yeah, that's awesome. So why don't you go ahead and show off the various pieces that you got, like the prop sword and the staff.
Yeah, absolutely. So the prop sword, I actually purchased, but I did quite a bit of custom painting on it so that it matches Kaalia's sword. And the staff I made out of a mop handle. So this is a wooden stick. And then I have a photo that I can give you to put up on the screen too, but this is all wrapped with aluminum foil, and then this wrap is finished with fibra, which is a thermoplastic, and I have some tea lights in here covered with rhinestones that can turn on and light up. And yeah, this was all handmade by me. Got my props there. The wings I purchased and added some snaps to the back so that they can stay attached to my cosplay.
Oh, your hair is kind of getting in the way there. We didn't really get to see the snaps.
Oh, okay. I can reveal to you. I don't have them snapped all the way since I'm home alone right now, but it gives you a nice
there we
opportunity
go.
for me to show you that they're actually just attached here. I don't know where I'll be able to see that on camera, but they're just snapped on to the back of the top that I made.
So how do you get the snaps? Like, did you have to sew the snappy things into the fabric of the wings and the shirt thing, or is that something that came in there like that?
It's this really cool tool you can use that creates snaps. I have one that's branded Cam Snaps, but there are other ones that you can get too. It's just really simple to snap on, similar to a grommet puncher, but a different tool.
Yeah, that's something that I always kind of wondered is like, because if I was going to make something like that, I would have probably had to do like buttons or something similar, because, I never even knew such a thing existed before now. So I'm guessing that a lot of cosplay technology has gone into this costume too, not just the stuff that you see here.
Well, and besides just making things out of thermoplastics and paint, I did sew the top as well as the gauntlet. The top, I have details to imply boning that are ribbon that are sewn down the front to give it structure, even though it's actually not structured, just to give the illusion. But then you can see the different paneling that her armor has. And her armor does have a unique swirl pattern on it. So I chose a brocade fabric that has a pattern woven within the fabric. Oftentimes brocades are on like sofa couches and such, that type of material, an old Victorian feel. And so I was able to use a silver and black. On the reverse side, this is actually the back side, but I thought it looked cooler. So yeah.
Talk a little bit about the makeup. Like, obviously, we see your you got the lipstick going on, you got some eye stuff going on, and maybe that's we could use that as a little bit of a prelude to the other piece of makeup that Kaalia is maybe most well known for.
Sure. So my makeup has definitely evolved as I've done Kaalia over the years. For example, I used to not darken in my eyebrows, which I do now. And I've also improved my makeup techniques over the years. So I do a lot heavier of shading, and I always wear lashes now. Sometimes when I was cosplaying previously, I would be like, I don't need to wear lashes, which is fine. You don't need to, but I think it looks really good when I do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then there is one other thing that I originally thought was makeup, but actually not, because it really does look really striking. So why don't you show everybody the tattoo on the Kaalia leg?
So the tattoo here that's on my leg for Kaalia
Doesn't that look
is not
amazing?
makeup. It is actually permanent marker from Sharpie on a suntan tight. So to make it, I drew the tattoo on a piece of cardboard that was similar to my leg. And I wanted to make sure that the proportions of Kaalia's tattoo on her body were similar to how it would sit on my body. So then once I had my drawing on the cardboard piece there, I slid the cardboard underneath the tattoo and used red Sharpie to get all of that detail on the leg there.
And that does. It
And that
looks
way it's
amazing.
done every time. I never have to worry about redoing it.
Yeah, and I bet that saves you a ton of time, like when you're getting ready for it.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about the other pieces of the costume. So you made the top piece. What are we calling that? The chest plate?
Yeah, you can call this my my bustier or my chest piece, either one.
Okay, and you made that with like a similar style as what you used for your gauntlets. So talk a little bit about how you made those.
Sure. So I chose a brocade fabric for the material, something similar to what you find like on couches that has a woven pattern within it. And I actually used the underside of the material. The front of it is black, but I loved the way that the pattern reflected the silver and gave the swirl details like Kaalia has in her Zenith Seeker art. And then when I originally made the top, it was a little bit too short. So I added this extra panel down here, which I then made it look kind of seamlessly attached with my ribbons to indicate her panels of the armor.
Right, and I guess the ribbons aren't just for decoration. They actually do have a structural piece purpose. Maybe not the same as like what the boning that they would imply would be, but still does have that sort of structural purpose to keep the strip put in the right spot.
Exactly, you've got it. That way it's giving her everything that she'd need to go into battle support.
Okay, so when you were putting this costume together, talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you had to overcome. Like you definitely talked a little bit about the time crunch. Was there anything else that you want to talk about with stuff that maybe didn't go as planned?
The biggest thing was just the time crunch. Is I decided I wanted to make the cosplay because her M20 card had just been previewed or released, and I knew that she was another cosplay that I needed to take to Vegas because I'd have my Kaalia deck. So the adding of the extra panel was kind of the first hiccup I ran into. My zipper, what I had on hand, was a little bit short, so I had to rip it out and put it in a little bit higher, but that wasn't too big of a deal. And then I feel like I spent most of the time on the staff. The sewing of the costume, I feel like, was about half of the time spent on the cosplay in comparison to the staff.
Wow, that's actually crazy. And the staff does look amazing. How did, in general, making the costume compare with what your experiences were, or maybe with what your expectations were going into it? Did anything like go not as expected, or did you basically predict about exactly how everything was going to go?
I feel like this was about my 20th Magic cosplay, so it kind of went exactly how I wanted it to go. I knew that if something started going not the way that I wanted to go, I would just scrap it, and I had plenty of cosplays to take along with me. But I'm really happy that she turned out how she did, and I even took her to another Magic Fest without making any changes to her. So it's nice that I had tracked my hours of previous cosplays, So the notes that I sent you of my personal work on this cosplay, I kind of knew about how long each section would take me, because the staff techniques I had used on Amara, Soul of the Accord staff, and sewing is like my backbone. I have that pretty easily. And the draping of the skirt and everything, I was like, yeah, we can do this.
Awesome, awesome. So, you got the costume and you made it within your deadline. So talk about the first tournament that you went to with that costume and how people received it. Maybe if there's any stories you'd like to tell about stuff that happened at that event.
Sure. So Kaalia was the cosplay that I wore on day one of GP Vegas. It was I want to say 2019. We're going to have to back check that.
Like the third time that they had a GP at Vegas, or was it after that?
Yeah, it was at least the third or fourth. But yeah, I brought my Kaalia Commander deck to play because the Command Zone was just then a new implement to Grand Prix. Previously, there was not an area for Commander players to go down and sit and play Commander. So this was a really nice new feature that hadn't been there. And something unique that I heard from more than one Magic player was, well, I usually don't want to play with Kaalia, or I usually don't let the Kaalia player do their thing, or usually I wouldn't let you win, and each time they followed up one of those statements with, but since you're wearing Kaalia and playing Kaalia, how can I not let you? So I will say I had like the most like easy wins I've ever had in a game and a day of playing Magic. Casually.
I got to keep that one in mind. You know, next time I'm going to the Command Zone, I got to get me a cosplay for like, you know,
Magic General.
Well, maybe not. Maybe a zombie Lady of Scrolls cosplay, or maybe, you know, something like that. You know, if I want some cosplay that someone's not gonna like mess me up while I'm trying to do my thing here, you know.
Yeah, don't mess with me.
Let's see. Any fun stories from taking this cosplay to any of your photo shoots? Because I've seen some of the photos that you've done with this costume, and the editing work is also amazing. It makes you really look like you know, like exactly what you would think that a badass angel, demon, and dragon wielding cleric would do. So talk a little bit about how that process goes.
Sure. So it's pretty cool because the first time I wore this cosplay to a non-magic event is where I think you're referring to a lot of the photos that I sent you by my dear friend Alan, who formerly was portraits and cosplay photography. But he had a little spot outside of the Portland Convention Center where he likes to shoot. I had shot with him as Captain Marvel the day before. So I kind of knew where to meet him and knew there was cosplayers going through there. And at a Comic-Con, you have far more than just Magic players. So I didn't expect to be recognized as often as I definitely was recognized at the Magic events. But it was cool because everyone like loved my wings. They loved what I was doing with the skirt flipping and everything, because there were lots of shots of doing that. And I even had one cosplay friend that was there shooting with Alan as well, and she was able to help take some little behind the scene things, and I returned the same for her. But yeah, it's just fun to be there in a Magic cosplay, and I did actually have a couple people recognize me at Rose City Comic Con.
Oh, very nice. And you know, that I guess makes sense because there's a lot of Magic players who go to those kinds of events too.
Yeah.
So any other kind of stuff that you'd like us to know about you, about your costume, about your experiences with it?
Sure. Well, I'd like you to know that Kaalia is definitely the way to get somebody to play Magic. Like, people ask me all the time, how do I get this girl I like or this person I like to play Magic? But usually they're asking me about a girl because I'm a girl. And my best piece of advice to you is give them a Kaalia deck that is well built. Let them play all of the angels, demons, and dragons, and let them beat you. They'll probably like Magic.
Okay, so I guess that'd explain why I've never been able to get anybody.
So yeah, there's a little piece of advice about Kaalia and getting people to play Magic. But Kaalia is just so fun because, you know, everybody knows who she is. She's timeless, even though I picked her to cosplay in 2019 when her card got a reprint. Do you know how many people know that my cosplay is designed around the art of cosplay Zenith Seeker versus Kaalia zbexx.art? How many people even know that one of them is wearing like a bustier top and one of them is wearing a full-on corset? Probably not that many, but that's the kind of the beauty of her character. She's just epic.
Yeah, and I guess that's something that I got busted by too. Is you know, when I saw the cosplay, a lot of the times that I've dealt with Kaalia has been the first Kaalia, the first coming of Kaalia. The one that we had the daily ruling about. And so I confess to being one of those people who mistook the cosplay of Kaalia A for Kaalia B.
Yeah, that's okay. Because, I mean, honestly, the deck that I like to play is Kaalia A. But I think the time restraints that I had also are what led me to choose Costume B. And I had a good excuse, even though her card was not nearly as powerful, even without months of play for people to evaluate. It was still like, well, that costume is going to be easier for me to make in a day.
Yeah, well, you know, certainly it's you know, one of them is certainly more famous than the other, so I guess you probably got a little bit of that phenomenon going on. But both of the costumes look really amazing, and the interpretation you did of it is also phenomenal. So let's say that people love looking at this costume or some of the other costumes that you've done in Magic history. What would you recommend to people who wanted to see more pictures or videos of you in cosplay doing stuff like that?
Well, you should definitely check out my website, zbexx.art. That's zbexx.art. That will link you to all of my social media pages where you can find tons of photos, videos. If you want to interact with me, possibly get to play Commander with me, you can find all of that stuff from my website.
All right, and that is, of course, something that you can find right down here in the description of this video. Everybody, please be sure to check her out and have a, you know, have a lot of, you know, effort that you spend clicking on that stuff, because I can tell you that it is well worth it. Some really amazing costumes and some really amazing pictures as well. So yeah, that is all that I had scheduled for today. I want to thank you so much again for coming out here and doing this interview with me. And I hope everybody had an awesome time and learned some stuff about this costume. And I hope everybody has an amazing day. You want to take us away?
All right, to the battlefield!